How's it going, everyone? And welcome to the TNA Body Slam post show. I'm joined as always by my good buddy Io. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. Yeah, pretty fun Thursday, to say the least. A lot of big TNA news going on, especially in this one day. The Hardys being in New York, a lot of talents, in New York and stuff, and then new TNA going to places they haven't been before. Yeah. So how about you, man?
Yeah, they announced that another mega sale. I believe they're going to. I know Canada was toward the end, right? Edmonton, and then Minnesota was in the middle. But where was the first one?
The first one is in Baltimore.
Okay,
They're gonna
that's
go
right.
to Baltimore. The next one is in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And the third one is in Edmonton, Alberta.
I I'm assuming they've already announced the venue for Minnesota. But when I heard that, I'm thinking, oh, if they could run the Mall of America, I always just remember that Nitro as a kid. You know what I mean? That'd be pretty dope. But before we go get into tonight's show, I just want to remind everyone that this week's podcast is sponsored by Shroom Bar, the protein mushroom bar. It's made up of not four psychedelics, but four powerful mushroom adaptogens. Sorry about that. It has lion's mane, which increases focus, memory, and neuroplasticity, making it easier to form new patterns and learn new things. Next time you're trying to learn that new move, it will actually stick in your head rather than forget it immediately. It has cordyceps, which increases VO2 max blood flow and overall endurance. It has reishi, which decreases stress. It has turkey tail, which boosts your immune system, and we all know you're going to need that on those nasty-ass gym mats. On top of all of that, it has 12 grams of protein. Go to shroombar.com and use code BODYSLAM at checkout for 25% off your first order. Okay. Let's get. I think before we go into tonight's action, I think just because it happened first, I think we should talk a little bit about NXT, our current TNA champion. And as he said after the match, he is holding down two brands. I can't see no lie in that statement. But I think he had a pretty above average TV match with Josh Briggs for the TNA World title. And the thing that stood out to me, which I'm a stat geek, I love stats. Dick Joseph noticed that this was the 11th TNA World title match of 2025 and the sixth to happen on NXT. That tells me two things. That tells me, one, that this belt is being defended. You know what I mean? This isn't just a title that's we put on the shelf for once a month, once every 4 months. And two, it tells me that NXT is really riding for TNA. That's you could do the math. That's more times on NXT than TNA. So that's pretty cool. But like I said, this was a really good match. What did you think about it?
Yeah, it was a very good opener. Um, Josh Briggs, he's a very decent talent. Very big man. Very versatile big man. I've seen him do like moonsaults and whatnot and flashy moves. When I heard like he was getting this title shot, at first I was confused. Like, oh, like this should be in Amura because he pinned Trick in the tag match last week. But then it made sense because like Inamura's going after the NXT title, and chances are he might actually get the shot at the PLE. And so if in a way, I know there's some people have have their some people have their feelings about it. It's like hey, like you just kind of like downplayed the TNA title, like going after the NXT title. In the end, hey, like Trick needs a boost to get into Slammiversary. I like Briggs, but he's not really doing much, so it didn't really bother me. But yeah, the match was pretty good. Uh, another way, to kind of keep building up defenses, for Trick, to solidify, this reign, and yeah, a lot of good sequence. Trick being the cocky champion, do a little taunting and whatnot. But yeah, Briggs put up a good decent. It was a good match. And
Yeah,
what happened after the match?
yeah, no, Trick. I like that cocky. Like Trick did kind of like a cartwheel in the beginning of the match. He's been real cocky. I like that, and I also think that a lot of his offense just continues to look more clean, more polished. I thought the trick shot at the end looked really good. I think he has a pretty underrated drop kick, which that all I think that's a pretty difficult move in general. Just the way that your body's turning, it
Yeah.
looks like that way to me. But yeah, I thought this was a really solid match. And then after the match, Trick cut a quick promo, and right when he was about to say that he was the greatest TNA champ of all time, Joe Henry's music hits, and it's the old, Joe's behind him,
Yeah.
and this was I think a side, we want to see of Joe. He's pissed that he lost his
Yeah.
title, so I like this.
Oh yeah, yeah. Normally Joe would walk through the ring, confront his opponent, but yeah, he caught Trick by surprise. Or I really like that, s- serious size of Joe as we had this anniversary.
Yeah,
And
definitely because
next week, so apparently Wesley, offered, to Trick to take care of this Hendry problem for him. So it's gonna be Hendry versus Wesley next week.
and that should be good. That should be very good.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Anybody who's familiar with TNA knows what Xavier Lee did there. Xavier. Is that was
Desmond Xavier.
yeah, David Xavier. Yes, uh, with the Rascals, obviously everyone knows where he can go, and his new faction, I believe, it's the High Rise.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of letting him run things, and he should be given the ball in NXT. So this should be a good
Yeah.
match. Okay, and do you have anything else to say about that match or?
It was about it. About it.
Okay. Okay, let's go into TNA, tonight's TNA, and familiar that it starts out with a Joe Henry promo.
Yeah.
And I thought that this was really good in the sense that, yes, what he was saying was very
From the
the
heart.
part where
Yeah.
the redemption and we watched his ascension. Now he wants us to be there for his redemption. I really like that line. And I also just, he was saying the right things, and he was like, he's saying he's going to put TNA on his back and get the belt back. So I really like this. This was a good way to kick off the show.
Yeah. It was a great opener. Pittsburgh crowd was really light up for Joe Hendry. They're going to support him whether he's on the downside or on the upside. And I like how Hendry kind of spoke from the heart, saying that that because of you guys, like I'm living out a dream that I like. I'm doing things he never thought magic possible. Run down the Rumble, the WrestleMania with Orton, and of course winning the title back in Genesis. So it's kind of like give us like a rundown memory of like, hey, look at where we started, and here we are now, and it's time to pick back up and resave the title from TNA. Because yeah, all everything that a babyface who's desperate is supposed to say.
Yeah, and he's always very every time he cuts a promo, he always has to mention that the fans are the ones that they got him to WrestleMania, they got him to Royal Rumble, and it always kind of makes me laugh because he definitely can't turn heel, and if he does, he can't be saying that the fans turned on him because we got the receipts. You know what I mean? He's basically saying the fans got him there. So yeah, and again, he was very over tonight. This Pittsburgh crowd was hot, and
Yeah.
I like these venues that TNA is picking. There's nothing better to me than picking a venue that you can sell out, and then just especially these smaller, I don't know if this was a basketball building, you know what I mean, but it looked really good. The way the crowd was positioned, this was a very good crowd tonight.
Oh yeah, yeah, very very good looking crowd. They were all hot. Yeah, and I like that. That's in Pittsburgh too, home of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Pittsburgh Penguins. So it's really good for TNA.
Isn't Kurt Angle from Pittsburgh too?
Yep, he is.
Yeah.
I was a little bummed that they didn't should give him an invite or like have or at least
Yeah,
give him an invite. That would have been good.
they should have. Next, we go to a Killer Kelly promo, and I thought this was just really good because I think me and you have talked about this just in the group chats before. Like when she came back, that the whole thing around her and Masha, if they do that, should just be the ties with her and MK Ultra, and that's very much what this whole storyline's about. I thought this was a very good promo. What'd you think?
Yeah, very good. Kelly, Kelly, showing us, like how she's a serious threat to Masha's reign. Both women feel like they know each other, then they know each other because obviously with the previous battles and then the MK Ultra stuff. So it's really looking forward to next week's chain match.
Yeah, and it's a little soon, but at the same time, I just because of the history, I don't think it's soon. I don't think it's that big of a deal. So I'm definitely looking forward to this. Okay, next we're going to move into our first match, which was Zachary Wentz versus Ryan Nemeth. You know what I mean? I have nothing to really complain here. I think the right guy went over. Zach won. But I think that Ryan Nemeth in this gimmick, if we're just looking at it right now, I think he's playing the role perfectly. So, and it's not like he's, he can't go out there. You know what I mean? The whole personality is to be annoying. So, yeah, I thought this was fine for what it was.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Real quick, Joseph gave us a reminder. So they announced not just Trick versus Henry, but also we got a 4-way tag team ladder match this anniversary.
Okay.
Yeah. It'll be the Nemets defending against the Rascals, First Class, and the Hardys.
Not to get too into the weeds here, but you just look at those announced dates and then you see one of them's in Canada. So when I see that, I just don't know if the Hardys win there. You know what I mean? I could see the Nemeth retaining, or if you really want to kind of, because in a ladder match, no one's really getting a pin, so no one's kind of really taking the L and like having to look like they're like losing. A first class winning would be my call, but that's just my opinion. We're gonna get more into that later in the weeks, but that would just be my call.
Yeah. So it's the opener. Was pretty decent. Crowd was all over Ryan Nemeth. I remember cracking up with the the he's adopted chants, and then they turned up to saying he's an orphan. Oh my god! But it was a very good sequence. Zachary, getting the momentum started. For the Rascals, and of course, the Nemets, being the cowardly, tricky heels they are. They decided, like they teased like they were gonna go at it again with the Rascals, but then they decided no.
What was making me laugh is Nick Nemeth out there with the ponytail through the hat, looking like a blonde, skinnier Paul Heyman. You know what I mean? That's never a good look. The ponytail through the hat, but it was just that was just making me laugh. But again, I think Ryan Nemeth is. I thought that for what this match was good. So, this is like we just said, we're getting the 4-way. So I think we're gonna have more matches like this leading up to it. So I like when they do stuff like this.
Same.
Okay. After the match, we just get a little bit of footage from NXT. They show the Trick versus Josh Briggs match. We already talked about that, so we're not going to go into that. But next we get a promo with Gia and Trick, and I like how Trick keeps always calling him like I think he calls him Average Joe, which that makes me laugh every time. Trick's a great heel, and he had another line in there which I'm forgetting, but it was very clever. I think as a heel, Trick's promos are phenomenal. But what did you like this?
Yeah, very, very good, very good. The one quote from Trick caught my eye saying that just because you can believe don't mean that you can achieve, and I thought that was very good line there.
Yeah,
But yeah, Trick's always good with his promos. You know, trying to he's like that he's like that prime time type of prime time type of talent. Like it's sort of like a Floyd Mayweather aspect. You know what I mean? Like talking
yeah.
the talk and then walk the walk. That's what I love. Like he always using his promos and trash talking to like build up to like the build up to the big fight and whatnot. So that's what it is.
And yeah, he's presented, looks and talks and carries himself like a star. You know what I mean? Like a
Yeah,
superstar. So,
exactly.
and that's all again, people who complain about what happens in between the ropes. And yes, as someone who loves in ring work as much as me, I might complain, but he's in WWE/NXT. You know what I mean? He's in that company. He has what you need to be a star. So okay. And next we're gonna get we go back to back promos. We go into a Masha promo, and she's basically just kind of answering Killer Kelly. You know, just kind of talking about, just basically saying like, let's do it. Just kind of talking about how she's ready for this match. She's been waiting for it, and then we get the announcement if it's going to be a chain match, or I don't know if we get the announcement, but she's talking about the chain match. And you had mentioned that. I
Yeah.
hope this main event's next week. Uh, I would like to think that we're not going to get a title change, but who knows? But yeah, I thought this was good. I think Masha's very underrated on her promos.
Definitely. And I've noticed that too in her GCW runs. Like she can really cut good promos. Like we should
Yeah,
have her speak less Russian and get into it. But I'm glad to see
yeah.
that.
And then toward the end, Ariana Grace kind of comes up, and I thought she was done with TNA, but I'm glad she's maybe this was her finishing up part of these tapings. I don't know, but she said that she has a surprise next week, but she can't say what. So that's very intriguing. I'm very interested in that. I think everyone is at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Next, we're going to move on to the Knockouts Battle Royal for a future Knockouts World Title match. I'm gonna let you start, Io, just because I thought this was a cluster, and there was just too much for me to. I think it was almost like a sensory overload. There were you had 20 knockouts in there. You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
combustible. You know what I mean? What did you think of this?
It was okay. None really special. We noticed some new knockouts. Yeah, some new knockouts. As well as all mentioned, and some current feuds going on, which is good. Like when you're having like a battle royal, like lets you know where we're going and where we're at between these knockouts. So yeah, match started. We have the Elegance brand and the Inspiration. Still going at it. Um, the four of them. Yeah, all four ladies got eliminated. Keep in mind, I mentioned four, and then they're still going at it. With security and whatnot. So yeah, then the match continues. I think Jody Threat eliminated someone. Then Myla Grace eliminated Danny Luna. And then Jody Threat eliminated Lei Ying Lee. So it just kind of like kept going after a bit, and then Indy Hartwell, she eliminated a new knockout Mila Moore, and so like it was kind of like getting based as as like dropping bodies one after the other. Rosemary and Zaya Brookside still going at it. And then she went at it with Alicia Edwards. So like we kind of like gets towards the so then like we kind of like gets towards the final it's like the final six. I think it was Hardwell, Laying, Zaya, Tessa, Tasha, and Crawford. And then it gets down to about and then then it gets to down to like the final four: Brookside, Tasha, uh, Layling, Tessa, and Indy. And then it came down to like Indy and Tessa. And of course, they're as we know they're currently in I guess you could say in a feud. So I was glad we got a little bit of few-minute sequence. A few-minute sequence of them. Like you didn't know this could have gone anywhere. To be honest with you, like either no Tessa could have won it or Indy could have won it. And as both ladies were on outside the rope. Look who's come crawling up. Look who just comes crawling up out of nowhere. Miss Ash by Elegance herself. That was a great shot, by the way. And then she eliminated both Tessa and Indy, and then Ash wins the thing. And if you go back, apparently when Ash and her girls were brawling with the inspiration, Ash never went over the top. So if you want to take a look back, so by it's by virtue she officially wins the battle royal. What's your thoughts?
A few things, Matt. I'm going to address your opinion, your point at the end because I'll kind of tie it in together. I like matches like this because especially when you have like one knockouts match. But this one happens to have 20 people. You want to do a couple things. You want to not only, obviously the obvious, you want to get a number one contender in this situation, but it kind of planted the seeds.
Just brought up at this point. I'll bring up later. Yeah.
Okay. You want to plant the seeds for future feuds, but like you're starting new ones as well, or continuing ones. Like so, you had the Inspiration and the Elegance brand kind of going, and then you had. Obviously, the big one with Tess and Indy, and then you maybe see seeds being planted of Laying Lee and Jody Threat, which would be a really good match. That would be a really hard. You know what I mean? You have two like very very good solid workers. But in terms of Matt's opinion, wanting Tess to win, I get that, and I'm not saying I like the finish. But Tessa right now, I think this is all about the student-teacher feud with kind of in kind of a way with Indy. And I don't think that match doesn't need a title, and Tessa winning that would make sense. Her and Indy, Tessa didn't need to win this because the focus was on her and Indy. They're going to continue with that. So Ash kind of winning this, Ash getting a future knockout title.
If you can create multiple feuds that doesn't involve a title, it's still a good thing.
Exactly, because like Tessa doesn't need to win a match like this to get a title shot. You know what I mean? Again, her and Indy were telling a story in there. So what were you saying about Joe's point?
So so Ash, she has a title shot, but they never said when exactly. So my thinking, it's probably going to be two things. It could happen as Slammiversary in a possible 3-way, as we'll mention the other third person, or maybe she might get the shot at the next Plus special, Emergence or in August or whatnot. I mean, it could go either way. And after the match, Masha comes out, and then look who graces us with her presence. NXT Women's Champion herself, JC Jane.
And that was interesting. I did not. I definitely popped for that, and I don't know if Was anything announced? Is she going to be having a match? Is she going to be on the show next
Not
week?
yet. She just appeared. She just appeared, but assuming we're in Slamversary season, I think she's going to be a big part of the show. So we'll see.
And in terms of when Ash gets the shot, like you said, I don't know how it works if this is a scheduled shot, but yeah, we have Emergence coming up. Me fantasy booking in my head, I know WWE's got an Evolution show. Maybe TNA will have a match on that. You know what I mean? A TNA branded match. So, you know what I mean? Like I said, like it doesn't mean that this is going to be her match. She's getting a match at Slammiversary. So, because I don't think that's the case at all. So, but yeah, this was a fun match. Ash winning, it doesn't bother me. Also, too, just because if anyone has watched for, let's say, just a year from now, I think Ash actually deserves this shot a lot more than last time. So, you know what I mean? She's greatly improved in TNA. I think her stock's risen. Bound.
Well, she has momentum because I mean, she actually pinned Masha in the tag match last week. So her winning, I won't say is come by surprise, but just like no, well, it makes sense. They're having the brand is having momentum right now.
Yeah. Okay. Next, we're going to go into.
Thanks, Joe, for the. No, I was reading Joseph's comment.
I saw that's why I put it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Please agree with you, Io.
Honestly, I would actually like to see it at Evolution because I think TNA does deserve a presence on that show. Yeah.
Also, because if they're gonna go, well, I think Jordan has a match. It's Jordan with JC. I was gonna say maybe Masha versus JC, just kind of a title versus title, but no, I believe Jordan versus JC that night. So, but yeah, I would like to see TNA definitely have a match. You know what I mean? Especially since the power of the knockouts of it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Okay, but next we're going to go into. Oh yeah, we had a quick Jake something promo, and I thought that this is probably the best promo I've heard him cut. You know what I mean? He showed a lot of fire and just kind of. I liked that before he was injured, they were kind of trying to establish Smith as him as this like beast. You know what I mean? This, So like I like how he called out Mance and he called out Macklin, and then who else? You don't have to say his name, and he's not too far. Macklin came out, and I definitely think looking forward to that. It's going to be a hard hitting match. And like we've been talking about, Macklin's definitely been is trying to establish that as the workhorse title. So yeah, I can't wait for this.
So Jake something, he's been on a very I guess you say hot streak, and then like a cold. Then he's been cold like per. He then was teaming with Hammerstone and whatnot, and then he gets injured. I feel like bringing back right now at a time where like the pace is running, like where the international title just got introduced. Like he's in a good spot, and honestly, I think I would like to see Macklin versus something. I think we can really do some cool things with that potential. And obviously, he has a sight set on Mance Warner first and stuff.
Yeah, I definitely think that this needs to be. I think this has to be. I mean, it's now or never. I'm not saying it's now or never, but it kind of is. They need to finally pull the trigger with Jake. Either they're gonna, because we kind of got teased that they were gonna maybe put the X Division title on him. Didn't happen, but I could see him as the international champion. I'm not saying you would have put back and put him over now, but if they go out there and have a really strong match, and Jake looks like the monster we know he can be, I wouldn't have a problem with Macklin putting him over at some point. If that's who the champion is when Jake gets a shot.
Yeah.
Okay, next we're gonna go to Mustafa Ali versus John Skyler in the Call to Arms match. And I don't know about you, but and I'm basing this just on the kind of comparing it to the match with Skyler. I thought this match was a little, I mean, with Jason Hodge, I thought this match was a little underwhelming. What'd you think?
Yeah, it was pretty all right, pretty all right match. At first I was kind of thinking to myself, like, what is a call to arms match and like how does it work? But then like I noticed, okay, so both guys, have their arms tied to the rope and then they try to break free and then that's how the match begins. All right, but Mustafa, this being the tricky one, he has had scissors and was able to free himself. So while John Scott was having a hard time, freeing himself, but he was able to counter, Mustafa's attacks, and then able to break. Then John Scholar, helped them, get loose, and then pretty decent match. Yeah, I thought it was good. I know you have a lot of praise for like the gray hands and stuff. I feel like this was good for both guys, Hodge and Skyler, to kind of like get a little spotlight, individual, show what they can do. Having them stand up themselves to Mustafa. So yeah, it was pretty, pretty, I would say dominating, because dominating sequence because Mustafa, as we mentioned, he's unhinged. He can't control. You don't know what he's capable of, whatnot. But very good.
Yeah, I could agree completely with you on. I thought this was another opportunity, and they delivered in making, and this time, John Skyler making the great hands look more and more credible each week. I'm not saying this match didn't serve its purpose. I especially at the end, I think it's right now. Ali's kind of driven his whole.
It was basically like a storyline match, basically.
Yes, because as we know, we got the debut because at the end we see a little bit of they kind of getting a bit of a fight, the whole Order 4, and then who shows up but Cedric Alexander, and we get kind of a tug of war between Tasha and Cedric and Ali and Tasha. So, and Ali leaves on his own, and the rest of the Order 4 stays with Cedric. So I'm very intrigued where this goes.
Same. I just had a knew that it was Cedric that that Tasha was and was on the phone, and when Mustafa was saying like him and like kind of figure like whoever this person is, Mustafa must have like ill feelings too, and then figure out well, who know better than his old rival, old friend Cedric. But yeah, I'm glad to have him here at TNA. He's I always thought Cedric was a great talent. The 205 live days. They him doing his thing obviously with the hurt business, and then obviously the crew, and then part before that the Cruiserweight Classic. The matches with Ibushi and all the other cruiserweights. So yeah, Cedric. Yeah, this is having him. Yeah, this is I don't know much about his contract deal. I'm not going to get into that, but yeah, this is pretty cool having Cedric, and obviously we're going to run it back him and Mustafa, and I can't wait for that.
I definitely think
this TNA, is like TNA getting some 205 live vibes.
Yeah, I think because of that. Yeah, I remember them having like if I remember right, they had a pretty a classic in 205 live, right? Oliver Cedric.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is the spot for Cedric, just because basically TNA takes almost the idea of the cruiserweights, but kind of makes it more of a bigger deal. So
exactly.
I think this is definitely the spot.
They feel like with TNA, they feel like their their X division, or whether it's tag, heavyweight, X division, knockouts, like they all feel like a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. It's like remember people back in the day, like if you remember listening to some of the cruiserweights kind of talk about like the ceiling in WCW.
Yeah.
I don't think that the X Division is the same in terms of I think the ceiling is just as high as, like you said, as any of the other belts. So
Yeah.
because we've seen it main event and stuff. So yeah, I definitely think TNA is definitely the spot for him. Okay, next we get a bit of a we get a system promo, and I basically I like how they keep teasing the what I called last week, comparing it to the 3 Live Crew. When BG James was being torn between 3 Live Crew and his old teammate of Kip James. I like that they're maybe teasing Myers leaving to team up with Cardona again. I do like this whole thing. What do you think about this?
Yeah. I don't know right now. If it feels like I mean, you would think that like they do the teases, but then the pro might not lead to anything. But yeah, yeah, the system, they don't like Cardona being here. Like, think he's taking up space. So Eddie, decides to challenge him to a match next week. See what goes for there. Thinking Myers might be caught in between, like like, hey, this is your old tag partner, but also like you're currently with the system family and whatnot. But she'll go from there.
Yeah, I think that's maybe like the story. You know what I mean? The storyline. Again, I don't know if if they do reunite. I personally don't think they should, but because I like Brian Myers in the system. But yeah, I am intrigued by this whole thing because it is there are ties there, so it leads to it makes it more interesting when there's history. So I do like it.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, we're going to go into the Hardys versus the Northern Armory. I thought this was good. You know what I mean? Eric Young getting ejected early on. I thought it was interesting, and I did like it in terms of, I don't need him distracting from me trying to pay attention in the Northern Armory. Seeing, I need them to get more shine because I do think that they're super talented. They have a lot of potential. I thought this was a good match.
Yeah.
The Hardys get a rock star pop everywhere they go. They continue to look really good since coming to TNA. So yeah, this is fun.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious where they're going with Eric Young. Being out of control, um, attempting to attack fans, disobeying orders and whatnot. But in the meantime, yeah, Center and Sade, I think the focus should be more on them. Like, as far as the tag division goes, because I think I could see them, probably getting a shot. Hopefully, maybe after Slammiversary or whatnot, because I really think that these two are good teams and like should get trade around with the Rascals and the Hardys and the Nevis and more whatnot. But yeah, anyway, it was a good showing for the Hardys. Building to Slammiversary too, because they're bent on getting the titles back, and the Nemesis sleazing their way in because uh, Jeff couldn't challenge them in Canada, so yeah, really good. Yeah, really good, showcase for Matt and Jeff, as they build their way back to Slammiversary.
Yeah. And then after the match, uh, Jeff calls out his favorite wrestler, Leon Slater, and it's basically them just hyping him up. Talking about how they know they know he's a star, they know he's the future, and they know he's going to become the X Division champion. And then I think then they passed the mic to Leon, and I thought Leon cut a very, very good promo. What'd you think of this?
Yeah, this was a good promo. This was a good chance, yeah, for Leon to like show the audience a little bit more about him outside the ring. Show him he's why does winning this X Division title mean to him? And I'm glad he pointed out his family, his mom and his siblings, supported him. While I think he started wrestling when he was like 6 or 7. Is that what he said?
I didn't catch that, but that's crazy.
But yeah, he started wrestling very young, and like I'm glad that he's able to kind of show express express a little bit more of him that we might not know about him. But yeah, I'm very looking forward to this eventful match with Moose because yeah, the fans are gonna definitely be behind him.
Yeah, because of course, yeah, the anyone who just maybe had that little bit of doubt, like, okay, can this guy, what's this guy like on the mic? I think he very very good, very good babyface promo for him tonight. So yeah, I think he has all the tools. But yeah, I thought this was very well done. Next, we're gonna go to a little bit of a, maybe tune-up match. That's what you want to call Moose first. I don't want to be rude, but two jobbers, Shane Saber and Jake Painter. Even though they have the advantage, Moose may look easy out there. I think this was a very easy win. Leon was on commentary, but yeah, no, I just think this was Moose. I think the purpose was the Moose to show that he's not sweating, man.
Yeah, this was Moose, and showing empowering his will, showing he can beat down any 2 men similar height and stature like a Leon Slater or whatnot. Yeah, this is basically Moose, trying to impose his will. And I like that Leon was on commentary,
Yeah,
to kind of see up close, like what's he expecting.
Joe, I'm not going to say that because again, I thought that this match was serving a purpose. I thought the point was to show that what Moose can do. You know what I mean? I personally think him squashing two jobbers is kind of entertaining, so I was fine with it. Okay, next we're going to move in to what I thought was it's our main event. What I thought was the match of the night: AJ Francis versus Santana in a street fight. This was phenomenal.
Yeah, this was a must watch. By any stretch of the imagination, must watch match of the year. And shout out to AJ, wearing the I think Seahawk colors.
Yeah.
I think he's wearing Seahawk colors. Yeah, that much.
I thought that was a nice touch. Yeah, there was what looked like kind of like an NFL type crest right there, which kind of gave it away to me with AJ's name. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Seahawk colors. Yeah, probably.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought the Steelers and Seahawks go way back. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, did he play for the Seahawks?
I believe he did. I know he's a Baltimore. He played with the Baltimore Ravens, I believe.
Okay. Did you notice I think you picked it up. Did you see him pick the sign up that said AJ drops top dollar?
Yeah.
I thought that was.
Yeah. I was seeing some highlights of it just now and stuff. Yeah.
Good on him for finding that.
Yeah. So yeah, I love how they started brawling around all around the crowd and around the arena, really kind of get the whole street fight feelness to it. Like you're almost looking at them like if this was kind of like this was not even like a regular wrestling match. Like they brawled, they wrestled, they did everything in between. We even got the Styles Clash, from AJ Francis of all people, which was pretty rad, and the crowd was into it. And I'm gonna give a shout out to AJ too, because like if folks ain't paying attention, to what he's doing after WWE, they should be now because dude is killing it.
Yeah, he is a much better wrestler than people probably obviously give him credit for only being known to those people. Most likely, they probably only know him from the flop, and
Yeah. Oh yeah.
so
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Matthew. Sorry for the. Yeah, Nikes have the Seahawks wearing neons these days.
okay, yeah, thank you, Matt. A lot of people probably like wrote him off, even though it was one move, one isolated moment. People mess up moves all the time, but for whatever reason, I think he kind of was labeled, flop.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he improves with every match. Yeah, that Styles clash looked clean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he looked great in this match.
Yeah.
He didn't win,
And
but that wasn't what it's
yeah.
about.
And shout out to Santana. Like any match you put him in, you're gonna have a banger. You're gonna get the best out of him. Like he he had a good one with Casey Navarro, and then with AJ Francis, and then the other feuds before that. Like Santana is just killing it right now, and and that's that's a big fact right there. Like once you know, like it's come to the point like once you know whenever Santana's having a match on Impact or Plus Special, you're gonna get a good heck of a match, heck of a show, and this was no different. I love all the sequence with the weapons and yeah, the weapons, the signs, both guys countering each other's moves and whatnot. It was pretty good. It was pretty good.
Yeah, the
The table,
lariats.
yeah, the table spot too. Yeah,
Yeah, and yeah, going back to what you said, I definitely, dude, Santana's just been the worker since coming to TNA. Like, I don't think anyone's had as many matches as him. I don't have the stats, but it just feels like that he's always on the show, and it's most of the time it's in a match, and a high profile match as it is. Yeah, he's definitely the guy. He's living up to the name of the standard.
yeah.
So
He definitely has match of the year candidates on his belt right now, as far as
yeah,
TNA wise. Yeah, and then
and
the champ Trick Williams, tried to interfere, so at least, but then Joe Henry, put a stop to that, and they brawled back, they brawl, all the way back to the back and stuff. Casey was injured, so he couldn't really help out AJ, but yeah, it was a good sequence. The table spot, the Styles Clash, and then the finish. Santana returning the favor with the champagne bottle to the head, and then spin the block, and then there we go.
if there's one thing we know about in TNA, it's people using bottles to win matches. You know what I mean? Whether it's a beer bottle, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I think that's a TNA signature.
yeah, yeah. I wonder who
And
does that.
yeah,
Yeah,
and also too, you know what I mean? Like people having a drink during the, you know what I mean? Chris Daniels was an Appletini guy, whether it's an Appletini or
yeah,
champagne, uh, but yeah, I think after the match, Santana grabbed the mic and basically said that he wants a world title shot. You know what I mean? Like, and for me, who maybe have jumped the gun, and I see that he wasn't on the card, it didn't look like they were headed that way. You got to give TNA credit and just have kind of patience. It looks like that they're planting the seeds for him to be involved in that match. So, and if you know TNA, no one does a triple threat better than TNA. I think they kind of put the triple threat match on the map. So I'm hoping that's where it goes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. This event, I mean, yeah, Santana was always destined to be in that match, at least in the world title aspect. So this is just TNA planting the seeds, making the slow build, making him figure out a way for him to get into that match. I mean, obviously, J. Henry, he has the rematch clause, so of course he's in. So yeah, it's very going to be interesting, as we build to Slammiversary with these three guys.
And even though I
Yeah,
didn't want it to be a triple threat, I want it to be Santana's moment. No doubt that Joe being in the match, it's not going to like hurt it from a fan's interest point. You know, I mean, Joe Henry's very popular, and him being involved in the match is definitely going to add eyes. So,
yeah,
you know what I mean. I can't knock TNA for that. That's a smart move on them on their part.
Well, I mean, yeah, Joe. Well, we know Joe was gonna. I think I don't know what's the original plans. I think Elijah was supposed to have a big spot on the card. I guess when but yeah, Joe was always gonna have like a big match at that pay per view, whether it was for the title or something else. But let's say we are. But I think I don't think it's gonna hurt anyone. Like both guys are over with the crowd. Like it's Santana's hometown, and Hendry being Hendry. I think pretty good, interesting. And like the main focus is like getting the both guys have something in common is get the title away from the NXT guy and Trick. So yeah, should be interesting.
To Joe's point, I want to address Joe's point real quick. I don't think that. I think that one. I think the triple threat, to your point, Io, I think is a product of maybe it's Elijah getting hurt. You know what I mean? And I think it was going to be Elijah versus Joe at Slammiversary. That's where it seemed like it was going. And then two, to Joe's point, I actually think the opposite, and I think Trick's going to take the pin because the whole point of this is for Santana to get the belt back from. It's not him beating Trick. I mean, him beating Joe is not the same thing. And I also think Joe not getting the pin sets up for him to have one more title match. You know what I mean? Just like Christian, he only needs one more shot. Okay, he only needs one more shot. So I definitely think that Trick is eating the pin, which that doesn't hurt Trick.
Yeah, it would only make sense. It would only make sense for Trick to be pinned because, like again, like this is about rescuing the title from the WWE guy and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, with that being, that's about it.
I think. Sorry, one more thing about that. I think it was going to be either Joe or an Elijah, or maybe they would do like a King of the Mountain match, probably. Because like, since Trick won the title, it feels like he's been making enemies, and Joe, Trick, and Elijah. So originally I thought maybe like a King of the Mountain, but I guess we'll never know.
A King of the Mountain would have been dope. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's been a while since they've done one of those, I believe, right? It was a couple years ago?
Yeah. Since 2022 with the women's one.
Oh, that's right. Queen of the Mountain. Okay. Yeah, that would have been interesting just because you're right. Trick has just been kind of, he's not making friends. Kaz doesn't like him. Obviously, Macklin doesn't like him. That would have been cool. Okay, well, that's about wraps up our show. Any final points you want to make? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, very, very good show. Very solid show. Like, again, folks gotta, check it out if they haven't. I know we got a sneak peek last Friday. So I know we got a sneak peek last Friday and then again tonight. But if you haven't checked this episode, you got to. It's very good. And that's what. And as we head forward to Slammiversary, looking forward to more matches being announced.
Yeah, I think TNA doesn't get enough praise for how well that they build toward their cards. You know what I mean? Like I don't think that they're just going to give you a bunch of random matches.
Keep an eye. Yeah, sorry. Keep an eye on NXT too. Since Hendry's on the show, I think Santana will likely be on the show too. So we're gonna have both programs, build Slammiversary for us. So that should be pretty cool.
Yeah, and I could see maybe Masha showing up on NXT now. You know what I mean? Just to kind of, one up JC. But yeah, definitely a lot to pay attention to. Like I said, TNA does a very good job building up their shows. Every episode's a must see, but they also give you. They're not just going to give you a bunch of random matches. There's methods to these matches. So, yeah, like you said, little by little there'll be more matches built around the big ones we know. So, with that being said, I want to thank everyone for joining us. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to like and subscribe to Body Slam. Be notified when we go live or when anybody else on Body Slam goes live. And join us next week. And I'll just want to let everyone know where they can follow you.
Yeah, they can follow me at Twitter, on X or whatnot, at Frequency IO. We doing my thing, sports, wrestling. I was at a FIFA game last Tuesday at the Philly Stadium. It was pretty fun.
Oh, dope.
Pretty good time. Yeah. Yeah, sports, movies, wrestling, whatnot, usual. Yeah, follow me on Frequency IO over here.
And you guys can follow me on Twitter as well at Bromac11. And with that being said, thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next week.
All right.
Have a good night, you guys. Oh, I'm exhausted. All right, man. I will.